great idea.
work on to just put it in your policy and review it every year.
That's a great idea. I'm going to do that.
That's why you do this town halls.
Yes, right.
It's a good thing I showed up. Boy.
I always like to say, you know, two minds are better than one, and however many we got in here is better than two. So, yeah, I think that's a really good idea, because then it creates a little bit of a fallback. Like, you know, we're not just checking the box; it's in the rule book.
Yeah.
You're
This
expected
is
to
what
do
you're
it.
supposed to do.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you for being here today. My name is Brian Jack Holder. I've run for the U.S. House of Representatives 3 times for the 3rd Congressional District. And I was looking at your website last night, and it's very well constructed. I want to thank you for that. But it says your mission is to serve as the taxpayer's watchdog. Our work is to help ensure government officials use taxpayer dollars for the intended purposes to benefit the public. Now, you may not be aware of this, but Iowa Public Television has excluded myself 3 times over the last 3 election cycles, even though I've qualified for the ballot for Congress. I have not been allowed to participate in the Iowa press debates. Now, Iowa Public Television is a nonprofit 501c3 or 4 organization, and the Johnson Amendment, part of federal law, says that nonprofits are not allowed to support or oppose candidates for public office. Yet they've excluded me and all the other independent and third-party candidates, but they've only let the Republicans and the Democrats participate in the Iowa press debate. So obviously they're supporting those candidates and opposing all others. I think they should lose their tax-exempt status for picking and choosing participants in the debate, because they're rigging our elections by determining and censoring and segregating me and others. So is there something you can do about this? Can you investigate? Can you send them a letter? Because they've already told me that they will not allow me a hearing in front of the television board to challenge their criteria. So they're denying me due process, and they're violating my substantive right to liberty of speech. So
it was Brian?
Brian,
All right, so thanks for running.
thank you. And I'm running again next year.
All right. I'm sympathetic to what you're saying. Personally, I think the more debate we have, the more voices that we have, the closer we get to hearing truth and getting the policy right. And so I get your point. I like the idea of including more voices. In terms of my official role, if you read Chapter 11 of the Iowa Code, we have a very limited ability to look into entities that receive public funds if they are not themselves public entities. As I sit here, I have not thought about that. I have not run that through Iowa Code Chapter 11.23 and 24, which are the most relevant. But off the top of my head, I'll just think out loud about it. My tendency is to think that we probably don't have an ability in the official office to do that. Our purview is really on financial statements, whether or not they're being presented correctly, embezzlement or other misuse of money that may or may not be criminal but comes close to criminal. And again, it's one of those things where policy-wise, we don't tend to, and I don't know if we have much authority to comment on policy. We can comment on policy when it comes to spending money effectively. I don't think that this fits into that bailiwick, though. I do understand your point. I do understand your frustration.
Well, you're an attorney. I have a law degree.
All right.
Why shouldn't me and other candidates that qualify for the ballot be able to participate in a public debate on public TV? You yourself have been on Iowa Press.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, as state auditor, I don't believe that the state auditor's machinery, the office itself, has a role to poke around on that issue.
So do I go to the Internal Revenue Service and file a complaint against public television for violating the Johnson Amendment? Do I have to bring a private lawsuit?
I guess a counterpoint would be that because the Fairness Doctrine was repealed in 1986 or 87, if I'm out of public television, I'd look at the repeal of the Fairness Doctrine and say we no longer have an obligation to present all viewpoints.
Well, I have a letter from public television. They rely upon a Supreme Court case from 1998, which started in 92, where a Nazi ran for Congress in Arkansas as an independent candidate. Now, last time, I was a major party candidate for this office. I was not a third party, I was a major party. Now, they misinterpret this case to exclude me, and my only recourse is to, what, file a suit?
Sure. Well, here's what we'll do. I want to make sure, I came
And
up
I didn't mean
talk
to
about
take
the
your time.
efficiency issue. No, it's okay to take my time.
I've
It's an important question.
Spent 5 years of my life running for
Yeah.
Congress and haven't gotten to speak on public television in a public debate.
Right.
5 years of my life.
And I
Where's
guess,
the democracy?
Brian, the other piece of that is too, I want to make sure we can handle all the questions that we got before we get on the road that we.
Oh, that's fine. I'm done. I've made my point.
Okay, all right.
And I thank you for listening.
And I wish you luck.
Thank you.
In your mission there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
so,
hold on one second. So you've asked one question.
yeah,
I
Let
want to
somebody
make sure
else-
we have everybody else have an opportunity to get their question asked first. So does anybody else who hasn't asked a question yet have one? Yes.
My name is Karen Carr. I'm a retired paraeducator. I worked in Council Bluffs and Lewis Central and for the Area 13. And I'm thinking that the efficiency of the schools and the transportation and everything should be an investment that would pay off. And it shouldn't depend on how much money each community has for that. And maybe we could get money from federal government to make sure it is equal in every building in the state, and it would be a good investment for efficiencies in the buildings, in the transportation themselves.
Yeah, I see your point there. I mean, a lot of our education funding still comes heavily from property taxes, and so it does end up being dependent upon the community that this school is serving. And there is a lot of money that can be saved just through energy efficiency. Buildings account for, I think, 40% of energy usage in the country. And so the more efficient we can make our buildings operate, we're gonna be saving money. And here's the other thing. This is why it's so important to be doing this in the public sector. Those things do not serve our mission, right? We have to have buildings that are heated. We have to have buildings that are cool. But heating and cooling buildings is not the mission of public schools. It's not the mission of government, right? It's something that is necessary to do, but we really have almost like a sacred obligation to do a good job of spending as few of the public's resources on things that are not actually serving the government mission. Because if we are wasting money there, then we're hurting our ability to actually serve the mission, which is, I mean, that's what our schools are there for. We want to educate everybody so we have good informed citizens going forward. So it's a good point. Again, the policy-wise on the divide of which chunk of government the money comes from and how big of that chunk is, something that's outside of our purview. But that's exactly, the spirit of your question is exactly why we're doing this. So I thank you for that. Is there a question over here? Okay. Go ahead, Nick.
okay, so the federal government says for nonprofit organizations cannot be political. And the Iowa Public Television is only allowing two parties in the state that are operating to have a platform. All other parties that are running the state of Iowa cannot get a voice. Me, as last year, I tried to get a campaign on 89th in the Riverville that is part of the community college here at Iowa Western. I couldn't put an ad on the radio station because of the federal government won't let nonprofit be political. So Western Iowa Community College is following law, and you have an entity that is being political for the two major parties. That's the Iowa Public Broadcast Association is breaking the law, federal law. So just want to point that out. And the follow-up on her question on schools, I see schools as a big sporting complex or a big babysitting job, where you see schools at. So that's my 2 cents for that. And anybody else want to follow up on me?
Public radio does not sell advertising, so that's why you can't buy an ad on public radio. So for them to sell advertising, they sell sponsorships.
But I've seen flip ads on Nebraska television before.
Do we have any more questions for Auditor Sam?
If some of the great creative minds in the county governments come up with new ideas, would you add them to the pie chart?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And there's another piece of this, right? We are going to err towards being over-inclusive. So if somebody sends us an idea and we're like, well, it's probably not gonna work for a lot of counties, well, it's gonna work for others, so we're gonna put it in,
Okay.
right? Just because something doesn't work for everyone is not a reason to exclude it here. The idea is, I know that there are people who are working in county government and city government every single day who are doing a good job, who want to do good work. It's why they ran, right? But at the same time, they're doing their work. A lot of them have a full-time job outside of that. You got family. Maybe you try to have one hobby to keep you human in addition to that, right? We can't have people in county and city government and in state agencies who are experts on everything, right? The more opportunities we can give them to look at a piece of paper that we put in front of them and have it spark a little bit of curiosity or a little bit of interest in a good idea, the better. And so we're going to be over-inclusive because you never know what ideas might resonate with the county or won't. But yeah, if you look at the top of the first page, I think it says that if you have emails or ideas, you can email them to Lillian Sanchez. But yeah, that's the idea, is we want to have somebody in the office, and she's been in charge of this project, who can take those ideas in, look at them, we can talk about them, and most likely, unless it's a really specific circumstance for a really specific issue, we're going to probably want to include them, yeah. So anything that, Potawatomi County has done over the last 15, 20 years that turned out well, and you can show, how much money it saved, we want to hear about it, absolutely, yeah.
If we don't have any more questions, we're going to wrap up here and probably stick around for a few minutes if you want to go up to Auditor Sam individually. And thank you all for coming tonight.
Thanks, everybody. Got one for my car. Glad you made it. Absolutely. What are you going over there for today?
I was supposed to be in Des Moines for a county report, but he's got a soccer tournament done down for me. I'll just head in the office for a couple hours. Then bed.
Good to meet you. Thanks for your time on the phone, too. I really do appreciate it. All right. I'll do that. Appreciate it.
I just want to explain how we represented for 100 years. What's that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, they don't.
Yeah. Is that right? That's great. What are you doing now?
She's been working in,
Do you know,
it's an investment.
Yeah.
here, talking to your office, and
You're good, Brian.
stuff drainage.
What do you think? So we need to.
Well, as I told them, so we get 7, we get 2% based on the category. Worked out to 42, so we paid $840 more, I think, $1,000.
So I was health insurance, the obligation for United and the state have.
7%, which is not too bad. That's $550. You know, the business like 330.
I know.
So I don't see. I mean, Sue, now that you change.
That's right, yeah, exactly.
I don't know what the solution People want lower taxes. You ask them that question, you want lower taxes? Who's gonna say no? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right. I think it's saying that they do it on premise of 85% of people. So they want lower taxes.
All that is up.
That's what I'd say. Like lower taxes.
What I
I gotta get with him.
just
It's
keep.
better than when I started out.
The ones I check, the ones that
Hey, yeah, thank you for coming out, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you later. So the ones that I didn't,
Okay.
the $50,000, and I run for office asking for campaign contributions. I told the media this, so everyone knows I'm just an average citizen. So I'm never gonna meet the 50,000, and I don't believe the code forced me to be a collector of money. It's almost akin to a debate tax.
Well, I mean, piece of this is, so, if your idea is you shouldn't have to raise money, well, then that's a catch-22. And this one, I mean, a lot of times pollsters don't include third parties. So,
Well, I wasn't a third party this time. I was a major party candidate.
a third party in the sense that you were not a Democrat or a Republican.
Right, but in the Iowa code, there's nothing about third party. It's a political party or non-party political organization. I was a member of a political party, same standing as
Have
the
you asked
Republicans.
them whether or not they'd be willing to,
I've asked them 3 times to modify their criteria.
Oh.
I've gone to the board 3 times in each election cycle. I go up there and humble myself before the king, ask them to change their criteria, and they tell me to sit down and shut the F up. So,
I don't use those words.
no, but
I get your, I get the drift.
you
I
know,
get
like
the drift.
President Kennedy said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. And if you think I'm a radical, you should see those right-wingers out there, those Trump people. So they're claiming unbridled administrative discretion. They're claiming the right to censor and segregate candidates.
You want to take a picture of it? You don't care if you.
No, you can take
It's the
pictures
best way to
with
make
it,
a
yeah.
copy of it.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for coming down,
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you. Yeah, what did you think?
Good.
Good,
I think that's a good thing. I work for the city.
yeah. Good.
I love one thing in here. Sweep the floors instead of washing them.
Yeah.
They had a debate for Iowa press for Or the pollsters decided not to.
It's better now.
Yeah.
Most of the floors in the house now.
Zero. He's not in the poll. So I explained that to a jury of our citizens. What do you do? And all I've asked, I haven't asked for any money, I just asked for a hearing, they won't give me that, so I gotta take it to court.
Oh, yeah.
And that's gonna waste, you know, hiring lawyers, and the discovery process.
Well, we have the photos now and
Oh,
we
yeah.
have a chance to review it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, it's just, which gotta stop, it's at some point they have to, because they have order things, they don't have to. Or if they have to have, if there's 16 of us last time, so they could have done David and Cindy, or David and they were for us and for us.
Oh, that's how often they watch it.
The remedy to it is more speech, not enforcement. That's just a remedy. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah,
for
thank
coming.
you.
Go Hawkeyes.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that.
I'm gonna fundraise. I'm gonna give you a